Hi everyone, it's Helen here. So this video today is going to be looking at how we use channels within Microsoft Teams. Now there are, I'd say, a variety of different ways you can use channels. So I'm going to talk about the different ways that I think we can use them. So I'm going to go into, to start off with, my Year 12 class. So it's a brand new class that's just been set up. And you can see down the side I've got 7 channels set up already. So the general channel's not got anything in it at the moment, but if we go to the bottom, we can see that we've got a channel for paper 1, a channel for paper 2, and a channel for paper 3. And this is one of the ways that you can use channels, is to actually help organise lesson content and material. I've found during the term 3 remote learning period that we had, that if I posted everything in the general channel, there was quite a lot of information, so the students would have to scroll quite a long way back to sometimes find a piece of information that they were looking for. So I started to use channels for the different lessons that I was actually teaching. So it might be for some of my subjects I have like lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3 and so on. And I've got an example of that in the Year 11 history class, in that we've got here it says Elizabeth lesson 15 because that's what they're currently on. And everything for the lesson is within this channel. And then next lesson I'll do an Elizabeth lesson 16, and then all the content that's needed for that channel's there. And you find that if you do posts or files, and that's actually a link to the notebook, but they're all the OneNote notebook, but the files, anything you post in files would go into the files within that channel, which is also quite a useful feature. So the GCSE pod that I posted to them actually also appears in the files. It appears in the posts, but it also appears in the files as well. If I go back to the Year 12 one, so the higher level paper 3, all the resources for this higher level are just in that channel. So it's much easier for students to navigate and find their way around if we can help organise the information for them. So that's the first way, is to use channels to divide up topics and units and lessons and put the resources for those into those separate channels. The second way is to set up channels for group work. Now these are standard open channels, so I've got 3 teams that are set up. So when I'm doing group work, I can point students to the team that I want them to work in, and then they can go and work in that channel. So it's a bit like a breakout space, a breakout room. And when you're actually in, there's nothing in here at the moment, but when you actually go into these sections, you could actually post individual messages to those different groups, so you could differentiate the tasks to the different teams. You can also, if they go into the files section, you can post resources in there that you want the students to work on, and they can do that collaboratively at the same time. Or if you go to new, they can actually say, for example, create a PowerPoint presentation, and they can all work on it together, whether they're at home or in school, because they can all work on the same presentation at the same time. And they're the different examples of files that they can actually do that with. So I think that is a really great use of online collaboration, because you've got students working on creating content and building knowledge together, which is a superb example of online collaboration. So that's definitely something I would say you should try if you haven't done so already. The other thing you can do, and I tend only to do this with the older students, is they can't start their own conversations within a channel, but you can start one for them. So if you want them to actually have a discussion as a group, you can actually go to Meet and actually start the conversation for them. You can be there in the conversation, but you can also put the conversation on hold if you want to pop into another team who's also having a conversation, so that you're constantly you're constantly there, you can constantly pop into the conversations that the students are having. So that's the second really good use of channels in Teams. Now the third one I haven't used previously, but I know some teachers have, is to actually create a private channel. So if you go to the 3 dots and go to add channel like you would normally, at the bottom here you can change it from standard to private. Now one of the great features of this is that you could have, for example, one-to-one discussions with individual students. So here's an example of a channel that is just going to be between me and one of the students. Now I'm not actually going to add one in, but you could add the name of the student, and then you would have a private channel between just you and that student. This could be a way to get around the fact that the chat student to teacher chat has been disabled. So you could set up private channels for the different students in your class so you can have one-to-one discussions. There is a downside because at the moment you can only have a maximum of 30 channels. So you possibly, if you've got a large class and you had all of your channels for individual chat, you might not then have space to do the other uses of channels as well. But that's just 3 different ways that you can use channels in Teams.